Hi guys. So, as usual, I hope you've had a lovely week so far. We are, when is today? I think it's Thursday. Yes, we normally do our gender controversies every Thursday. So yeah, I guess it's Thursday. I normally have a few glitches here and there in my mind, and I don't think anyone should blame me for that. After all, I'm a guy, so there's a lot in here. There's a lot upstairs that normally consumes too much of our thoughts. Yes, so welcome back again to another week, another Thursday, another gender controversy day. And if you can recall, last week we talked about something very important, something that I find to be very crucial, very important, and I thought it was wise for everyone to actually think about it, hear about it, and talk about it. So last week we talked about gender violence, or rather domestic violence towards men, and we said all these things about how men are being violated at home by their partners, by those they live with, the women, the girlfriends, the wives, and so on. So I thought it wise and fair to also come and do the same about the other side, because it's not only guys who are being domestically violated, even ladies experience the same. And many would say or think that women actually go through a lot more than men do. I don't agree with this, and I don't disagree with it too, because I think that both genders actually go through a lot. They are violated a lot, and yeah. So this week we talk about domestic violence upon women, upon the female gender. So yeah, buckle up and get ready for it. So where do we start from? Let me see. We've defined domestic violence. It can be physical, emotional, mental, even financial sometimes. But that's my opinion. I tend to think that sometimes finances can be attributed to domestic violence. So the physical nature of the domestic violence, I know all of you know, battering, beatings, all these kinds of physical mutilations that a lady would go through. And so many women out here would give an experience of that. They've gone through that in one way or another. Slaps here and there, battered here and there, blows here and there. Just being handled physically in a way that they should not. Many have gone through this. I believe I've been a victim, and at the same time I've been a perpetrator. And I would say I understand how this manifests itself. And by the way, most people ignore it, but it actually happens. Women go through a lot in terms of this, and mostly in their case it is physical, unlike men, whom in their case it is mostly emotional and mental, because very few ladies or women out there can actually violate a guy physically. It's not even something to think about. It rarely happens, but yeah, it happens. So to women, it is mostly physical. When you go to organizations, law enforcement and such, you'll realize that most of the domestic violence cases reported that have actually happened against ladies are mostly physical. And they end up leaving these women in some sort of emotional, mental turmoil, torture. So yeah, that is it. That sums it up. So, to a lady, domestic violence is mostly physically, as I've just mentioned. And yeah, we've heard of women who have been beaten, who have been stabbed, those who have been basically manhandled in so many manner of ways. Some are mild, some are very serious, and some have left some permanent damage. Some are easy to get over. I'm not saying that they are. I'm not justifying them, but I'm saying that some are easy to get over, while some are tremendously unforgettable, unforgivable, and they're that bad. So the ones easy to get over are like you've gotten into a fight and this guy slaps you. Yeah, just a slap. They normally don't leave so much of an impact, but to some ladies, yeah, it does, because it reminds them perhaps of a previous relationship, or it reminds them about their own family. Maybe they come from a family where the dad did the same, or the brothers, or something of that nature. So it might look mild, it might look insignificant, it might look like something very little, but it actually is a very serious thing, and it actually affects their mindset, moving forward, moving on, especially when it happens a lot. The slaps coming every other day, a small argument ending up in those, a small disagreement ending up in those, fights every now and again ending up in those, being dragged around the house, being beaten by stuff, being thrown at things. A cup is just there, a glass is just there, being thrown at you. These are things that surround gender violence, and sometimes they don't even have to be on you. They don't. Let me give you an example. The guy is just sitting there drinking his glass of water. Then a slight disagreement occurs, and he throws the glass at the wall, and it shatters. We all know what happens to glasses when they shatter. They shatter, and then pieces just go about anywhere. This is a safety hazard to anyone that this is done to. And this is why I say it doesn't have to be on the lady herself, on her body. Sometimes it just happens in the house, and it actually causes some harmful effects. It's a risk. The fact that it's a risk makes it domestic violence. The mere fact that it's a risk makes it domestic violence. So it can be a risk on her mentality, it can be a risk on her physical appearance. Sometimes it cuts the face, sometimes it hurts so bad that the lady needs medical attention. Sometimes she doesn't, but in most cases they actually do. Bruises here and there every now and again. Some of these things they might look not so serious to the guy, or even to some of the ladies at that time, but when you move away, sit down and think about it, they actually do, because you realize that they're affecting your brain, they're affecting your emotions. Every time you sit down, talk with this guy, you feel like it might end up in violence, it might become physical. Yeah, guys don't really do it with verbally, but they do it physically, and that is a very dangerous one. Unlike the women who constantly remind a guy about how unworthy he is, how stupid they are, how worthless they are, how they can't achieve anything on their own by themselves, how stupid they are, and this kind of shit. To the women, it's about how they are being handled physically, and most cases reported, this is actually how it goes down. Remember, I told you In every 7 ladies who experience this, 3 guys experience the same. So it is a serious issue. It cannot be swept under the rug. It can't be ignored. It is serious. And in most cases, in African countries, we don't take this seriously. We take it as something that is normal, can be handled in-house. Sometimes it can't be handled in-house. And we've heard of cases where ladies end up in mortuaries or hospital wards. That is how bad it is. We need to call out some of these things. We need to talk to some of the guys we have around who participate in such, who are perpetrators. And the same needs to be done on the other side. Some women need to understand that this is a very sad thing that should not be done to any human being, because if it was done to them, whether you're the guy or the lady, if it was done to you, you would not welcome it, you would not appreciate it, you can't embrace it, because it affects you. The moment you understand how it affects you, you will know. The moment you understand, the moment you understand how it can affect you if you're the one this was done to, then you would stop doing it. So women go through a lot at home, and it's done silently. Sometimes neighbors know about it. But yeah, like I said, it's an African setup, and no one really cares until when it's too late. No one really cares. So we've heard of ladies scream in houses. We've heard of glasses being broken in houses when people are fighting, and no one actually cares. We live in a setup in a society where no one really wants to engage in their neighbors' activities. We all want to mind our own businesses. It's unlike in the Western countries where such cases are hurriedly reported. Any mere disruption of any small noise that emanates from a household is reported. And even if it's not reported, there is a neighbor who will come to your doorstep and just inquire, what the hell is going on? Is everything okay? Is everything all right? We are our neighbors' keepers. But unlike in Africa, like in Kenya, where I'm from, this doesn't happen. No one really cares. So ladies end up in hospitals with bruises all over. They end up in wards, in ICUs, and the worst case, some end up in mortuaries and in graves. That's how bad it is. So yeah, we need to cast out some of these things. Some people might say these things, some of them are demonic, but I tend to think that they can be controlled. They should be controllable. We control our own actions, all right? And my advice is simple. To the perpetrators, find a way of controlling this. To the victims, find a way of stopping it. As a lady, you know very well this guy gets violent. What should you do? Before we go to the obvious answer, the worst case scenario, which is usually to leave the relationship. Before you make a move to leave, before I talk about leaving, let's exhaust the options we have. For example, a guy who gets physical is a guy who probably is stressed about something, either there at home or at work or somewhere about family. Ignore such kind of situations, or when you want to talk about them in a somehow cool environment. The way you approach it, the way you approach the discussion, the topic, should be in a friendly manner, not in a nagging manner. And if that's not the case, because some women are actually humble and they are very respectful, but the guy is just hell-bent on being physical. So I won't ask you to avoid those things, because they'll affect you as the woman. For you to ask, it means it's serious. So if you can't talk about it with the guy, because you know it's going to get physical, if you're afraid of such, then find someone who can actually converse with them on that kind of a matter. And sometimes it just forces you have to leave. Sometimes just leave, because at the end of the day it's going to affect your marriage, it's going to affect the relationship, it's going to affect the kids, if at all you have in any. And it gets worse when it's affecting the children, because they grow up knowing that this is what happens. So some of them might get into marriages doing the same thing. Some might get into marriages, not even get into marriages, some might actually avoid marriages because of this, because they've experienced the worst of their parents. And by the way, you might think that when you're mishandling your woman, your lady in that house, that sometimes the kids don't have any idea of what's happening. Kids are never clueless. They are very intelligent beings, and they understand some of these things. And some cause some traumatic experiences that they will not forget. They take them to their adulthood, and they can actually end up being victims or perpetrators, or they might stay away altogether from marriages and relationships because they have an understanding that this is what happens. So I talked to the ladies today and I ask you, if some of these things are happening to you, before you decide to report them, if you can't talk about them with your partner, talk about them with someone who is understanding. Some of these things are actually repairable. They can be sorted, maybe through some elders, parents, church leaders, elder siblings. Just involve someone, not you, because you're the one who is the victim. So when you're the one who is trying to have a discussion with this guy about them, it will end up the same. So don't do it. Involve someone. Let someone handle this. And if it gets worse, then you can always leave or involve the authorities. But before it gets to that point, try and sort it out. Try and handle it. That is when you're feeling unsafe. But when you feel like it's too much, no, just leave. Just leave, because it's not worth it to lose your life because of such kind of things. So yeah, that was it for this week. We were being fair to the ladies, and yeah. So till next week, we talk about something different, and I promise you, next week it's going to be something so nice, something sweet. So let's get ready. As usual, I thank you for being with us through this episode. The episodes are moving on well, thanks to your support. The channel is growing. The episodes are doing fairly well. The comments keep coming, the likes, the shares. Please do it. Please subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. It's how we grow, and it's how you get notified whenever I upload a new episode. So yeah, till next week again, as usual, I thank you for being with us, and goodbye. Cheers. Peace.